Hubs, who Ramon Foster is now teammates with. Congrats to the Vol Network team of Mike Keith, Ramon Foster, Jason Swain, and our good friend Brent Hubs. I am sure you've been loving the fact that you were going to be on the airwaves this morning with Moan.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And, here's the thing I've learned this morning. First of all, let me say this. Thoughts and prayers to everybody in the mid-state. I know it's been a rough 3 days or so with all the severe weather, and prayers for everybody for health and safety and the cleanup, and you're in our thoughts and prayers, and I know it's been rough. So just hang in there. As for Ramon and being a teammate, I'm listening to that bumper music coming back, Kayla, and I just can't help but think of how much work I have to do on the road to teach Ramon and to educate Ramon on music, and so it's going to be a challenge. It's something I'm looking forward to, but man, I got to roll up my sleeves and go to work to help Ramon out here on the road.
Oh man, we are looking forward to that. He's going to come back a changed man every morning.
Hey, Hubs, there's going to be more music conversation than it is football. So I hope I got Apple Music, I got Spotify, I got Pandora also. So whatever you say we putting on, I'm riding with, okay? Just so you know. Yeah. I didn't know that was Brooks and Dunn's. I need you to tell me what I'm listening to, okay?
Ramon is going to be one hell of a playlist, brother.
Yes.
I promise you that, my friend.
That's all I can think is like, here I am ready to play some Young Jeezy and JC, and Hubs like, no, sir. Let's put on old Kenny Chesney right now. That's what we're doing.
Hubs, how cool is that, though, just to know, somebody who, when he was a young man coming into Tennessee, you got to know well, and now here you are on Saturdays going to be on the call with that young man who's now a grown man.
I know.
Well, I mean, it's awesome, and it makes me feel like the old dude, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But in all seriousness, and I've said this in a couple of different places, and people are like, "What excites you most about doing this?" And what excites me the most is the passion that this broadcast is going to have, because I know Mike, I know the preparation, I know how it's going to go about, I know how detailed it's going to be. But I also know the passion that it has. And to know Ramon I still consider him from Ripley. I think that's an accurate statement, right, Ramon?
Oh, Ripley High School, Henning, Tennessee is where I live.
There you go. So I still call him Ripley Ramon. But to know that young man and what it meant for him to get to sign with the University of Tennessee, to play at the University of Tennessee, succeed, go on and have a terrific NFL career, and then to come back and start a second career. And the thing about Ramon and Jason Swain that I'm rambling here, but I'm so most pleased with is they're not just former players dabbling in broadcasting. They are broadcasters who are former players. And I do think there's a different mentality, and I think that mentality will benefit the Vol Network and will benefit this broadcast greatly. So I'm elated to get to hang out with Ramon, but more importantly, I'm elated to get to provide a service to the Tennessee fan wherever they are, whether it's in the stadium or in the field or at work or whatever. That's going to be something they're going to be really, really proud of. So it's going to be fun.
I appreciate that, Hubs, man. That means a lot, man. We talked a little bit yesterday, just on the journey to get to this point, man, and the team and what it means to actually work for the Vols. And you mentioned that. I saw Swain said also on Swain's side of things, man. I know a lot of people probably wondering what's his role going to be and how he's going to go about it too. I've always thought so high of him, man, as it pertains to the guy he is, but also how much of a pro he was early on. I think when I met him in 2004. He was more reserved, definitely one of those guys that took his craft serious, man, and really laid down some good stuff at the University of Tennessee, too. So I'm excited just as you are to get to work with him.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, having done the pregame show with him for the last few years, he's got great knowledge. He interacts with fans so well and is – I joke with him, he could run for office on game day Saturdays at Gate 21. I think he would win. I mean, I call him the man of the people because he's very comfortable around everyone, and it's going to be fun. Like I said, I think it's a group of guys that are going to work really hard and be really prepared. I think when it's time to have fun and kind of let your hair down, so to speak, we're going to have a great time because we're all friends and know each other. and then when it's time to button it up and go to work, and I've been around Mike well enough to know there's a switch that flips.
Yeah.
And when that switch flips, we'll all be ready to go and do our part to give the listener everything we can give them that's going on in that moment, that they can enjoy what's happening.
We're supposed to have Mike later at 9:20 Central Time, and I'll ask you this. I won't bring it up to him, but that is one of the things I figured out with Titans Radio and working with Rhett and him and Philip and Brad and everybody else that was a part of it was people ask me, what was it like working with Mike? And you've been around him for a few months now in Knoxville, if I'm not mistaken. I said, it's fun, it's cool, but I said it's like a game being with him and the radio crew. Like the moment it hits 30 minutes before kickoff, like everybody gets quiet, everybody's focusing on the task at hand, and you deliver the goods like it's a friggin' football game, Hubs. Have you gotten that from Mike before?
Well, I started getting it in 1994 when he was doing sports talk. Yeah. And it's, you know, I have been blessed in my life, and it's the irony that everything has come full circle to me reminds me of how big of a blessing it is. I had the pleasure of meeting Mike in 1993, and it changed my career path 180 degrees. I never gave any thought to radio. I never gave any thought to being on air. I was always going to be a behind-the-scenes guy, and he completely altered my universe in terms of what I wanted to do. And he put me on a path of success in this business. And then I had the opportunity to meet Shannon Terry in 97 and then go to work for him in 01. And that changed the trajectory of what I do with the website, because he was a visionary. And both of those guys were visionary in their craft, and they bet on themselves, and they 100% believed in themselves. And to be working with both of them again is just almost surreal in some ways. But Mike absolutely has those moments, man. Ramon, I mean, you could be at lunch and you could be hanging out with him, and it's almost like he looks at his watch and it's like, okay, it's go time. Yeah. And he was like that daily when he did a sports talk show. Like there was a window before you went on air that it was time to get locked in and get dialed in. And he's like that, obviously, in a game broadcast, and he'll always be that way in a game. And I think that's what makes him elite in his craft and what he does. And I could spend hours talking about the lessons that he has given me in this world, both as in the business and both just as a human being. And to be hanging out with him again is absolutely awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. I know I better ratchet up and go to work and prepare like nobody's business, and I'll do that because I know what it means to get to be a part of this broadcast, and obviously the Vol Network's very special to me. For
sure. All right, now to official business, the football side
Absolutely.
Of things, man.
Let's talk about it.
Absolutely. Who's been, I guess, the belle of the ball so far as or caught your eyes? Have you heard about guys in this spring practice? I know they got their final scrimmage this upcoming Monday night, man. Who's kind of turned some heads so far?
For me, it's those young receivers a little bit, because there's been so much emphasis on that and that position group and what will it look like. And I don't think the veterans have done poorly at all. I mean, I think Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, Chris Brazzell have had solid springs. But you wondered where Travis Smith was. You wondered where Rodarius Jackson was, because the reality is, Ramon, you're not going to play with just three.
Right.
You've got to have help. And there's a lot of pressure on those young guys, and there's a lot of pressure on getting those young guys ready. Kelsey Pope's, he's got to get help, and to do that, that's where his help's coming from. And so I think Travis Smith has made some plays, which is, caught your eye. I think Rodarius Jackson has been more consistent than anybody could imagine that he would be this early in his career. There's a long way to go for them to be ready in August, but you feel much better about where you are the back half of this spring in terms of the amount of load of offense they've been able to mentally grasp and build off of with each spring practice. That gives you encouragement there. I think the freshman DeJuan Morris at running back has been really dynamic at times. He's got a long ways to go to understand what you do as a pass protector. The good news for him is he doesn't have to step in and be any kind of guy, right? Like, you could supplement and bring him in at different points, and you could almost specialty package him to a degree if you wanted to. So, but I think he's clearly been dynamic with the ball in his hands. Those two freshmen, or those two transfer guards, have been important. I think where David Sanders is right now compared to where he was to start practice is exactly what you were hoping would happen. He's built in stacking days on the practice field, and I think that's important. Defensively, I think the fact that Tyree Weathersby flashed a little bit in the scrimmage gives you some hope.
Real quick, I told you I had a conversation with Coach Gardner, and Coach Ayers was around too at the time, and they asked me, who stood out to him, and I mentioned Weathersby, and you could tell those two looked at each other and felt like his progress was real to them after I dropped his name to him.
Yeah, and he's the guy who obviously had a hip injury that cost him a year. Last year was still trying to get back into it. I mean, he was still a freshman a year ago. And leaving that playoff game in Columbus, Ohio, I think, all those guys are looking at decisions at that point, right? Am I staying? Am I going? Or what am I going to do? I think Tyree Weathersby never gave thought to leaving. I think his exit meeting with Rodney Garner was very clear on what he needed to do and what the expectation was for him. And I think he's put his head down with confidence in his body and has gone to work. So I think that was a nice step for him last Monday night. Can he build on it to finish? He's got all the tools. That's a guy they were so excited about as a freshman before the hip injury occurred. I think he's gaining his confidence back, and it was big for him to take another step in that confidence by making some plays in the scrimmage on Monday night. I love Edward Spillman and what he does from a physical standpoint. In the back end, those freshmen are heads are swimming right now, but I think Ty Redmond can play athletically. I think there's nothing to suggest that he can't. It's a matter of putting him in the right positions and him continuing to learn and progress in what they need to do. I think they like what they have in those young guys. They're just still a ways away from being able to help them.
Brent Hubbs, our good friend of VolQuest, joining us as he does every time on Fridays at 7:20. Brent, when it comes to Nico Iamaleava, obviously we know he is the guy. A two-parter to this question. What have you liked with him early on in spring in terms of the leadership? But also, what have you seen in the backup in Jake Merklinger?
Well, let me start with Merklinger first because, everybody knows Nico's the guy, right? But Merklinger, I think, is a great story right now. A year ago, when you watched Jake Merklinger throw the ball, it felt labored. It felt like he was having to sort of throw his whole body into it. And mechanically, there were some things they were trying to clean up. And then they made a radical shift with him and how he gripped the football. And it's very much like taking a shooter in basketball and completely retooling his shot.
Wow.
Because, Merklinger has spent his entire life throwing a football a certain way and a certain grip. And now you're telling him, hold it differently, do it differently. And the feeling was that he would gain velocity and that he would not necessarily have to gain a bunch of muscle mass in his body to be able to throw the ball further. But because he would be better mechanically with this grip and with some motion things. And it's taken a while. There's been a lot of painful days in doing that to muscle memory and retrain everything that you've known. But I think you're seeing the fruits of that right now. I think he's throwing the ball. You could see it even in, routes versus air periods in practice. You could see the ball just comes out of his hands much better. It's livelier. It's got more velocity. It's got more accuracy. I think he used his legs in the scrimmage. I think he's playing with more confidence right now. He's not going to beat out Nico, okay? But when you talk about who the backup is, I think he's separated himself, that you feel comfortable that he's going to be the backup, which means George has got all the time he needs to develop and work on some of the similar things and some tweaks here and there, and obviously the physical development of his body over the course of the next year or so, which I think is a blessing and a good thing. As for Nico, I think it's just control. The thing about Nico is he's never going to run up and get in anybody's face, and he's never going to be that kind of guy. But he's got command, and he's got control. And the challenge for Nico as a leader has been, hey, make the 10 guys around you better. Elevate their game through your play and your actions. And I think Nico's taken that to heart. I think he's trying to do that. I don't think it's the most comfortable thing for him, but I think he's growing in that. But he's clearly got an even better command of this offense being in it for a second year. The second year of Josh Heupel's offense, I don't care what position you're playing, there's a real jump, whether it's running back, receiver, tight end, offensive line, or quarterback. There's a real jump from year one to year two after you've played that system for a year. And when I mean play against competition, not just practice it, but actually play against competition with it. And I think you'll see a better Nico this fall.
Brent Hubs with us this morning. VolQuest's on 3 Hubs on that side of things, too, as they close out spring. Of course, transfer portal open up. And also, when can you expect the Vols start to pull in some of these 2026 commitments also? Is this that time of year, too?
You're starting to move into that window in terms of 26 commitments. Most of that's going to happen in June and July because guys want to take official visits. You're trying to set the stage as much as you can with those guys and get them on campus as much as you can. There'll be a guy, here and there around the country that will commit, but a lot of that work is during official visit season, which is now June instead of January. So you're going to see most of that work take place here in the next 2.5 months. You mentioned the portal opening up. The question is going to be, does anybody on this current squad leave? And here's the reality. I don't know anything, but here's the reality that everybody should remember. Everybody's eligible to leave. Even a guy that got here in January. Anybody around the country can leave at any point. So you could see guys around the country that enrolled at midterm and they go through spring practice and then they're out. And, they don't get their bags really unpacked, but they've decided they move on somewhere else. I mean, you have the ability to do that, which is the maddening part of the transfer portal. Now, the positive part of it is if you feel like you have a hole, you feel like you're somewhere that you need help, maybe you didn't think you needed or didn't know you needed, you can go look for somebody in the portal. I don't think the talent level in the portal in the spring is near what it is in the winter, but if you have a real stopgap or a real need for a stopgap, you can find that in the spring. I wonder if Tennessee doesn't kick some tires on interior defensive linemen. And here's my reasoning why. One, you got 3 guys you believe in. Rodney Gardner wants to play at least 4. He really likes to play 5. But the 5th guy is kind of that development guy, younger guy. A couple of years ago, it was Dalvin Hobbs. Even last year, to a degree, it was Hobbs. So now he's got Bryson Eason. He's got Jackson Moy. He's got Hobbs. Those are his 3 mainstays, experienced guys who have developed under him and are grown men in the college game. Where's his 4th guy? You were hoping it was going to be Jamal Wallace, the junior college player they signed a couple of years ago, but he's not practiced all spring. I don't know where he's at health-wise, when he's going to be back or what his status is going to be. I love Nathan Robinson. I love everything about Nathan Robinson. I like his game. I like his size. What I don't like about Nathan Robinson is he's got more fiberglass on him year-round than anybody in terms of having a cast. He's just not been able to stay healthy. It's not his fault. It's just he's had a hard time staying healthy, which is a bit of a red flag. I think Ethan Utley has a chance to be a really good player at Tennessee. Is he physically ready right now? How much more weight does he need to gain? You got Isaiah Campbell, who's bigger. You like his size. But those are 17, 18-year-old dudes. And Ramon, nobody knows better than you. Yeah. It's different in there. And if you could get an older veteran guy maybe to where he's your 4th, and then Utley and Campbell are kind of that 5th guy that you sprinkle in and develop as the year goes along and those guys play, that may be a more ideal scenario than saying to Isaiah Campbell or Ethan Utley, hey, starting with the Syracuse game, I need 25 snaps out of you a game. Yeah. Are they ready? Are they going to be physically ready to do that? That's why Rodney Gardner makes good money. That's why he's been in this business for a long, long time, and I'll leave it at that. That puts him in a position to know what to do. So we'll keep an eye on that when the portal opens.
Also on the portal, it's nothing official, but it seems like there's a bat signal being sent up, man. It seems like Felix Akpara is at least alluding to something because you got Chaz and a couple other guys look like they're posting goodbye emojis or something like that. Have you heard anything as it pertains to Felix Akpara hopping into the portal?
Well, here's the thing with Felix, and Felix is like everybody else in the country in that his people are getting phone calls. They're getting phone calls every day. And what does it mean? Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? I mean, I think if you're Tennessee, you got to be prepared, and you got to be able to make a shift if you need to in any direction that you need to go. Now, I mean, to this point, Felix has not done anything, and the longer you go, you think the better it is. I mean, he obviously has not been in a rush to like, hey, I hate it here. I got to get out on day one. But what we're seeing around the country in basketball right now in terms of the amount of money and dollars that are being thrown around is pretty crazy. It is pretty wild out there in both the men's and the women's side of things. And so, I mean, people's phones ring every day. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Tennessee is putting all of their efforts and all of their work that they can get into trying to get the Greenville kid, Jacoby Gillespie from Maryland. There's a lot of focal point there, and they want to get him in the boat and try to get that done without him taking visits anywhere else. I think Tennessee's moving in the right direction there, but yeah, I mean, it's head on a swivel right now, Ramon, with your current roster. It's head on a swivel with guys that you're out there, you think you're in pretty good shape with, and then maybe they do a 180 and head elsewhere. So, I mean, it is it's something that changes by the hour, not by the day. It's not different in the morning than it is in the afternoon. It's different at 8. It's different at 9:30 than it is at 8:30, and that's just the world we live in, particularly in basketball right now.
Man,
he is Brent Hubbs. I was just going to say of the Vol Network, but he is Brent Hubbs of the Vol Network with Ramon Foster. Of course, we'll have Mike Keith on later in the show, but also of On 3. Always enjoy all of your insight, Brent, and we'll see you and hear from you next week.
All right, sounds great, guys. Have a great weekend. Ramon, be kind to me with the boss man here coming up a little later on the show, okay?
He said, boss man, I got you. I got you, Hubs. We're good. Just have the playlist ready for the rides, man.
Oh, trust me. I will start sending you summer playlists to listen to. You're gonna be maddened. I mean, you're gonna be like, oh, geez, I got to go this way, because you have. It's not just things I like. You have to have an education on the progression to those points as well. So. Get your study notes out and get yourself ready, my friend.
Already got some Blake Shelton suggestions in our YouTube chat, so let's get it going in the right direction, Hubs.
All right, that will do it, my man. I appreciate you guys. Kayla, have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too, Hubs. That is Brent Hubbs of VolQuest. Always enjoy everything he brings to the table. Good stuff there. When we wrap up hour 2, man, Cincinnati just can't get out of its own way. We'll talk about what the vice president of the Bengals said recently about the Trey Hendrickson deal or no deal. We'll talk about that next, coming up here on RK Dub 104.5 The Zone.